Graceland, the estate of legendary singer Elvis Presley, is facing a legal battle now over a potential foreclosure sale.
For nearly half a century, Graceland has stood as a sacred monument to the life and legacy of Elvis Presley, the undisputed king of rock and roll. Millions of fans have walked its halls, gazed upon his glittering jumpsuits, and paid respects at his grave. Yet one mystery remained locked away, untouched since the day he died. Recently, Elvis Presley's hidden attic at Graceland has finally been opened, 48 years after his tragic passing. Why was this attic kept closed for so long? What treasures or surprises did it hold? Stay tuned to find out. To understand why a secret remained frozen in time, untouched, unexplored, and hidden from the world for 48 years. We must first revisit the death of Elvis Presley. What or who kept this door locked for nearly half a century? Was it merely an attic used for storage, sealed and forgotten? Or was it a deliberate vault safeguarding the final unspoken truths of the king? Only by unraveling the mystery of his final days can we begin to find the answers. Behind locked doors, guarding Elvis's final secrets. When Elvis Presley passed away on August 16, 1977, it was like Graceland itself fell into silence. The mansion didn't just become a burial site for his body. It became a vault for his secrets. Just days after his death, parts of the estate were sealed off, especially one part that caught everyone's curiosity: the attic. Elvis died in Memphis, Tennessee, at just 42 years old. The man the world called the king of rock and roll had been struggling behind the scenes. While fans flocked to Graceland in tears, doctors revealed he likely died from a heart attack, possibly triggered by years of prescription meds use, especially barbiturates. By the time the mid-70s rolled around, Elvis was no longer the vibrant performer the world knew. He had divorced his wife, Priscilla, in 1973 and had grown heavily dependent on prescription meds. Junk food became another addiction, and his health took a hit. He put on a lot of weight and began to pull away from the public eye. Toward the end, his stage performances were shaky and unpredictable. He lived more like a recluse than a rock star. On that fateful afternoon of August 16th, he was found unconscious inside his Graceland bathroom. He was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. Elvis was gone. The hospital's chief of pathology, Dr. E. Eric Muirhead, headed up the autopsy with a team of 9 top doctors. They found signs that he'd likely been using prescription meds for a long time, but they needed toxicology results to say for sure. Later that evening, at 8 p.m., Dr. Jerry Francisco, the medical examiner, who was not a part of the team, declared that Elvis had died of cardiac arrhythmia. Basically, his heart just stopped. He also insisted meds had nothing to do with it. That shocked the doctors who were part of the autopsy team. For a while, most people accepted the official cause of Elvis Presley's death. But then came the toxicology report. It showed his system was filled with high levels of powerful prescription meds, including Dilaudid, Quialude, Percodan, Demerol, and codeine. This shocking detail raised eyebrows and kicked off a deeper investigation. The Tennessee Board of Health stepped in, launching an inquiry into how Elvis died. During a series of hearings, it came out that Elvis's longtime doctor, Dr. George Nicopolis, popularly known as Dr. Nick, had written prescriptions for over 8,000 doses of medication since 1975 alone. Even more troubling, the number of prescriptions had been going up steadily. When asked about it, Dr. Nick admitted to prescribing all those pills, but he insisted he wasn't trying to harm Elvis. In fact, he said he was trying to help. According to him, Elvis was so hooked on painkillers, that the only way to keep him off dangerous street substances was by controlling his supply through legal prescriptions. The jury believed him and cleared him of any wrongdoing in Presley's death. But in 1980, Dr. Nick found himself facing charges for overprescribing meds to both Elvis and fellow music legend Jerry Lee Lewis. And by 1995, the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners permanently revoked his medical license, citing a long pattern of overprescribing medication to his patients. Despite all this, the idea that Elvis died of a med overdose remains just one of many theories. A more recent take comes from author Sally A. Hodel. In a 2025 interview with The Mirror, Hodel, who wrote the 2020 book Destined to Die Young, challenged the overdose story. She argued that Elvis actually died from a heart condition, not substance abuse. She believed that much of what people saw as self-destruction was actually Elvis trying to manage chronic pain and illness in the only way he knew how, through medication. Regardless of the cause, the world was stunned when news broke that Elvis was gone. Fans needed to say goodbye. On August 17, 1977, the day after his death, Graceland opened its doors so the public could view Elvis's body. The crowds showed up early and grew fast. By the end of the day, about 100,000 people had gathered outside. The next day, Elvis was laid to rest. A long funeral procession left Graceland, led by 17 white Cadillacs and a hearse carrying the king's body. Among the mourners were his ex-wife, Priscilla, his daughter, Lisa Marie, his father, Vernon, and his grandmother, Minnie May. Close friends and celebrities also attended, including Chet Atkins, Anne Margaret, Caroline Kennedy, James Brown, Sammy Davis Jr., and Colonel Tom Parker, the man who had shaped Elvis's entire career. Elvis was buried in a mausoleum beside his beloved mother. After Elvis's death, the Presley estate kept tight-lipped about what was in the attic. No one talked about it, and that silence only stirred up more rumors. Some folks believed the attic held unreleased songs or private letters from secret lovers. Others thought it might contain proof that would clear up or complicate the mystery behind how Elvis really died. Legal fights over his estate just made things more tangled. Whatever was in that attic could have been anything. Something to treasure, an heirloom worth a fortune, or something the family wanted to keep far away from the spotlight. As the old door creaked open, the air was filled with what was about to be uncovered. Graceland, the King's Castle. Elvis Presley's famous Graceland mansion in Memphis, Tennessee, has always been surrounded by mystery and fascination. It's more than just a house, it's a symbol of the King of Rock and Roll's life, legacy, and even a few secrets he left behind. So why does Graceland mean so much? Let's rewind a bit. Back in 1957, a 22-year-old Elvis was already a superstar. Tired of the chaos of fame and looking for some peace and quiet, he bought the Graceland estate on March 19th for $102,500, a huge amount back then, which would be over $900,000 today. Interestingly, the name Graceland didn't come from Elvis. The place was already called that when he bought it. Graceland was a world of its own. The estate had barns, horses, and even a rather mischievous pet chimpanzee named Scatter. Elvis dressed the chimp in costumes and played pranks, like ducking down while driving around Memphis, so people thought Scatter was behind the wheel. Eventually, Scatter's wild behavior got to be too much, and Elvis had to confine him to a climate-controlled room on the property. One of the most peaceful spots at Graceland was something Elvis added himself: the meditation garden. Built in 1964, it was a quiet corner filled with flowers, fountains, and white columns. Elvis liked to sit there and think. After his death, it became something even more meaningful, his final resting place. At first, Elvis was buried at Forest Hill Cemetery in Memphis next to his beloved mother Gladys. But just 2 days after the funeral, someone tried to steal his copper-plated, steel-lined 900-pound coffin in a ransom scheme. 3 men were arrested, but they were only charged with trespassing. Still, the scare was enough. Soon after, Elvis and Gladys were moved to Graceland, where they remain today. The second floor of Graceland was Elvis's personal hideaway. That's where his bedroom and private bathroom were, places only a few trusted people were ever allowed to enter. And sadly, it was there, in that bathroom, where he was found unresponsive on August 16, 1977. When Graceland opened to the public in 1982, the downstairs became a museum. But the upstairs was locked tight. Out of respect for the family, and to avoid turning the place into a morbid tourist stop, the Presley family never let visitors up there. No official photos were shared. Not even presidents or world leaders were allowed to see it. To add to the mystery, Graceland recently found itself at the center of a legal fight. A company called Nosany Investments and Private Lending, LLC, tried to sell the property, claiming Elvis's granddaughter, Riley Keough, had failed to repay a loan. Riley, who is now the trustee of the Promenade Trust that owns Graceland, called the whole thing fake and filed a complaint, calling the attempted sale fraudulent. The case made it to court just in time. On May 22, 2024, just 1 day before the auction was supposed to happen, a judge stepped in and blocked it. The judge stated clearly that under Tennessee law, Graceland is one of a kind, and losing it would cause irreparable harm. Neither Riley nor the company showed up in court, but the ruling was clear. Graceland stays put. Now that the door to Elvis's attic is finally open, what's inside might rewrite history. What has been hidden all this time? Graceland's hidden treasures. What was left behind? For almost 50 years, the attic at Graceland stayed locked tight, completely untouched since the day Elvis Presley passed away. It was like a time capsule sealed off from the world. But in 2025, that changed. Archivists finally opened the door, and what they found gave fans a whole new look at the man behind the legend. Inside were pieces of Elvis's life no one had ever seen before. But before that major discovery, remember the 2006 Graceland tour? That year, Oprah Winfrey and her friend Gayle King joined Lisa Marie Presley for an exclusive walkthrough of the Presley family home. During the visit, Lisa Marie took Oprah and Gayle through the house, showing them everything from the living room, still decorated exactly how Elvis had it in 1957, to the more hidden areas of the estate. Angie Marchese, the director of archives at Graceland, called the basement the fun rooms of the mansion, and for good reason. They stopped by the pool room, which Lisa jokingly called the mayhem room. Then came the famous jungle room, a space decked out in lush green carpet and tropical furniture, one of Elvis's favorite hangouts. But the real surprises were in the annex. This special area holds some of the Presleys' most meaningful items, like Elvis and Priscilla's wedding outfits, Lisa Marie's crib, and a few of her childhood toys. Then came the truly top-secret spot. Behind a door marked "Employees Only" was a room so private, Oprah's crew had to stop filming before they entered. This room is earthquake-proof, fireproof, and tornado-proof, Oprah said in the special, and most of what's in here has never been shown to the public. And then came the attic reveal in 2025. When archivists finally unlocked it, they were met with boxes filled with rare memorabilia, things even die-hard Elvis fans had never heard of. There were private letters, old photographs, outfits that had never been displayed, and even a few toys from Elvis's childhood. One of the biggest surprises was his handwritten notes. Some were song lyrics, others were just thoughts and scribbles that gave a real peek into his mind. There were also early concert posters, unreleased recordings, and personal keepsakes from his career that had been hidden away for decades. Tucked away in boxes were love letters from Priscilla, old family snapshots, and scraps of paper with handwritten song lyrics. These mementos weren't meant for the world to see, but now they offered a raw and tender look into Elvis's personal life. Through them, we saw a man who loved deeply, felt deeply, and lived with passion beyond the spotlight. Then there was the fashion. Graceland's attic turned out to be a hidden closet of rare Elvis outfits, stagewear that had never seen the light of day. One of the standout pieces was a gold lame jumpsuit embroidered with Egyptian symbols, possibly designed for a tour in 1977 that never happened. There were also more laid-back items, like a worn leather jacket with a handwritten note pinned inside that read, "Wear this when you need to disappear." The surprises didn't stop there. Archivists uncovered a box of old reel-to-reel tapes. Some marked Practice Sessions 1976. Inside were private recordings. Elvis playing around with gospel, deep blues, and even early synthesizer sounds. On one of the tapes was a chilling, stripped-down version of Unchained Melody, just his voice. No instruments, recorded just months before he passed. That moment captured the soul of a man still experimenting, still searching, still creating. Then came the fan treasures. In dusty boxes were stacks of unopened fan mail, small gifts, and even a few uncashed royalty checks. Among the letters were touching messages from soldiers overseas, grieving parents, and hopeful musicians looking for inspiration. One letter in particular stood out. It was a 1976 petition signed by dozens of fans pleading with Elvis to cancel an upcoming tour for the sake of his health. It showed that people were paying attention. They saw the toll his career was taking. And then there were the childhood treasures, simple, sweet reminders of the boy before the fame. A worn-out teddy bear from his early days in Tupelo, his high school yearbook filled with scribbles and signatures, and a Bible gifted to him by his mother, Gladys. These weren't showpieces for display. They were items he'd kept close, items that clearly meant something. All these pieces gave a clearer picture of who Elvis Presley really was. Lisa Marie Presley once shared her experience in The Secret Room. "It's comforting," she said. "I can come here anytime and rummage through the boxes." And just like that, the king of rock and roll becomes more than just a legend. Through the letters, the jackets, the tapes, and the teddy bear, you begin to see him as a father, a husband, a son, and a man trying to find balance in a life that never slowed down. Elvis's private world, the man behind the legend. Elvis Presley may have been crowned the king of rock and roll, but deep down, he was constantly torn between who the world wanted him to be and who he really was. On one hand, he was the wild rock pioneer who broke all the rules. On the other hand, he longed for mainstream success as a pop star. He was the swoon-worthy heartthrob who dreamed of becoming a respected actor. He was the rebel who dutifully put on a uniform and served in the U.S. Army. The bombshell who turned around and released gospel records filled with raw spiritual devotion. And the anti-establishment icon who proudly posed for a photo with President Richard Nixon. In many ways, the public created a version of Elvis that didn't fully reflect the man behind the legend. He got stuck in the image people wanted from him. The swiveling hips, the smirking lip curl, the 1950s rebel. And when he evolved, many fans didn't know what to make of it. Some even criticized him for changing. But the truth is, he never stopped growing. Elvis's first taste of performing came at age 10 during a singing contest at the Mississippi-Alabama Fair and Dairy Show. He sang Old Shep, a heartbreaking tune about a boy and his dog, and proudly remembered taking 5th place. Not long after that, he got his first guitar as a birthday gift. He didn't take formal lessons, but he picked up a few chords from his uncles and a pastor at his local church. "I took the guitar," he once said, "and I watched people, and I learned to play a little bit. But I would never sing in public. I was very shy about it." By his junior year in high school, Elvis was starting to turn heads not just for his music, but for his unique sense of style. He began growing out his sideburns and often admired the flashy outfits displayed in the windows of Lansky Brothers, a clothing store on Beale Streets, the center of Memphis's blues scene. By his senior year, he wasn't just looking, he had started wearing those bold outfits himself. Elvis Presley's music career really kicked off in 1954 when he started recording at Sun Records with producer Sam Phillips. With Elvis on guitar, backed by lead guitarist Scotty Moore and bassist Bill Black, the group helped shape a brand new sound, rockabilly. It was upbeat, driven by a strong rhythm, and blended country with rhythm and blues. In 1955, drummer DJ Fontana joined them, rounding out the classic Presley band. That same year, RCA Victor bought out Elvis's contract in a deal pulled together by Colonel Tom Parker, who ended up managing Elvis for the rest of his life. Then came a huge moment. His first RCA single, Heartbreak Hotel, dropped in January 1956, which shot straight to #1 in the US. In just a year, RCA had sold 10 million Elvis singles. Between hit records and unforgettable TV appearances, Elvis quickly became the face of rock and roll. In November 1956, Elvis made his movie debut in Love Me Tender. Just as his fame was reaching new heights, he was drafted into the U.S. Army in 1958. On March 24th, he reported to Fort Chaffee in Arkansas, where he was swarmed by fans and reporters. He told everyone he wanted to be treated like any other soldier. Between March and September 1958, he completed basic and advanced training at Fort Hood, Texas. During a short break in June, he managed to record 5 songs in Nashville. In October, Elvis was sent overseas to West Germany, where he served as an armor intelligence specialist in the 3rd Armored Division. While there, he got promoted a few times and eventually made it to sergeant in early 1960. He donated his Army paycheck to charity, bought TV sets for the base, and even bought matching fatigues for his unit. After his service, Elvis returned to the spotlight. Guided by Colonel Parker, he spent most of the 60s making movies and recording soundtrack albums. A lot of these films were slammed by critics. Still, a few became classics like Jailhouse Rock, 1957, Blue Hawaii, 1961, and Viva Las Vegas, 1964. By Christmas 1966, after dating Priscilla Beaulieu for over 7 years, Elvis finally popped the question. The two tied the knot on May 1, 1967, in a quiet ceremony at the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas. Then came a turning point. Lisa Marie Presley, his only child, was born on February 1, 1968. At the time, Elvis was struggling with his career and felt stuck. But later that year, he made a massive comeback. His 1968 NBC television special, simply titled Elvis, brought him back into the spotlight and reminded everyone why he was the king. The show was a huge success, pulling in 42% of the entire TV audience that night. A reviewer from I magazine, John Landau, wrote, "There is something magical about watching a man who has lost himself find his way back home. He sang with the kind of power people no longer expect of rock and roll singers. He moved his body with a lack of pretension and effort that must have made Jim Morrison green with envy." That comeback led to more success. Elvis started performing live again, took up a residency in Las Vegas, and went on to do several high-earning tours. Then, in 1973, he made history by performing Aloha from Hawaii, the first concert by a solo artist broadcast live around the world. By 2005, Forbes named him the highest-earning deceased celebrity for the 5th year in a row, pulling in a jaw-dropping $45 million. He dropped to second place in 2006, but bounced back to the top spot in 2007 and 2008. In 2009, he came in fourth, but the very next year, Elvis made a massive comeback, raking in $60 million, the most he'd ever earned posthumously in a single year. By mid-2011, there were about 15,000 licensed Elvis products out there, and once again, he ranked second among the top-earning deceased celebrities. Fast forward 6 years, and in 2017, Elvis landed in fourth place with $35 million, $8 million more than the year before. That boost came after the opening of 2 new attractions in Memphis: Elvis Presley's Memphis, a massive entertainment complex, and a luxury hotel called the Guest House at Graceland. When it comes to record sales, Elvis still wears the crown. He's one of the best-selling artists of all time, with an estimated 500 million records sold worldwide. He dominated pop, country, rock and roll, rockabilly, rhythm and blues, gospel, and even adult contemporary. He won 3 Grammy Awards, took home the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award at just 36, and was later inducted into several music halls of fame. His list of achievements is unmatched. The most gold and platinum albums certified by the RIAA, the most albums ever charted on the Billboard 200, the most #1 albums by a solo artist on the UK Albums Chart, and the most #1 singles in UK chart history. In 2018, the US government honored him posthumously with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, one of the country's highest civilian honors. Elvis's greatness didn't just come from what he achieved, but also from his flaws. As critic Greil Marcus put it, he was a cultural phenomenon. He could be bold, tender, over-the-top, soulful, corny, magnetic, generous, and yes, even boring sometimes. Conspiracy theories. Did Elvis really leave the building? Ever since Elvis Presley passed away, the world just hasn't been able to let him go. For some, his death marked the end of an era. For others, it kicked off one of the most bizarre and long-lasting conspiracy theories in pop culture history: that Elvis never actually died. It all started almost immediately. The day after his death, someone reportedly spotted a man who looked just like him at the Memphis International Airport. The man gave the name John Burroughs, a fake name Elvis often used when checking into hotels or flying under the radar. That moment became the first of many so-called Elvis sightings that would stretch across decades and continents. In 1987, a woman named Louise Welling swore she saw Elvis at a Burger King in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Newspapers, TV reporters, and radio hosts couldn't resist the impossible hope that maybe Elvis was still around, enjoying a Whopper. But that was just the tip of the conspiracy iceberg. In 1978, a woman named Gail Brewer Giorgio published a novel called Orion. It was loosely based on Elvis's life, but with a twist ending where the main character fakes his death to escape fame. A year later, in 1979, a two-part TV special called The Elvis Cover-Up aired on 2020, hosted by Geraldo Rivera. The special focused on the role prescription meds played in Elvis's death. At no point did the special suggest Elvis might still be alive, but the title alone left enough room for misinterpretation. Soon, Brewer Giorgio released the most incredible Elvis Presley story ever told, a book she claimed publishers tried to bury. It was later reprinted with new material and a catchier title, Is Elvis Alive? This edition even came bundled with a cassette tape. On it was a voice, eerily similar to Elvis, talking about his supposed life in hiding, claiming he had grown a beard to avoid being recognized. The man also sang some familiar tunes, including a version of Eddie Rabbitt's I Love a Rainy Night. David Darlock, a singer, later admitted that it was his voice. He had been hired by an Elvis fan club for what he believed was a fictional project. Brewer Giorgio took her theory on the road, appearing on Oprah, Larry King Live, and more. Major Bill Smith doubled down on the theory, claiming to be in direct contact with Elvis himself. He released a cassette called Elvis Lives, where a fake Elvis chatted and answered fan questions on air. Things got even weirder. In 1988, a mysterious song called Spelling on the Stone dropped. It was performed by an anonymous singer with a familiar voice and claimed that the truth about Elvis's death had been right in front of us all along. The clue he gave was the spelling of Elvis's middle name. Aaron was changed to Aaron on his gravestone. Some fans took that as a hidden message from the man himself. Then came The Elvis Files in 1991, a live television special hosted by actor Bill Bixby, who had once co-starred with Elvis. The show featured Brewer Giorgio and other theorists, photos of Elvis lookalikes, and even pushed the gravestone spelling argument again. One photo, supposedly of Elvis at Graceland's pool house, was later revealed to be his longtime friend Al Strada. By 1999, Brewer Giorgio published her final book, Elvis Undercover, Is He Alive and Coming Back? It included claims that Presley may have appeared as an extra in the 1998 movie Finding Graceland. That same year, people said they saw him at Legoland in California. In 2015, a fake news website stirred things up again with a bogus story that an 80-year-old homeless man in San Diego named Jesse had been identified by DNA as Elvis. The following year, someone claimed a Graceland groundskeeper was actually the king himself in disguise. Even in the 2020s, the rumor mill hasn't gone quiet. One of the most persistent modern theories insists that Elvis is now living as preacher Bob Joyce. The problem with this is Joyce is much younger than Elvis would be today, and the resemblance is more wishful thinking than reality. Still, people want to believe. It's clear the world never really got over losing him. And now, with the recent discovery of what he kept hidden in his Graceland apartment for nearly 50 years, it feels like an old wound has been ripped open for some. For others, though, it brings a strange sense of comfort. Were you surprised about what was found in Elvis Presley attics? How will this new discovery change the way we see the king of rock and roll? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. If you found this story fascinating, click on the next video on your screen. Thanks for watching.